Hi there, crafty peeps. Enis here from Papercrafting with Enis, and I'm on today to begin my November design team project for Jovi, who is Creating with Jovi on YouTube. And I will have her and all of the design team members and guest design team members linked in the description box down below, as well as Jovi's Etsy shop and this beautiful paper collection that I'm going to be working with called Old Time Christmas. Now we're going to be doing something a little bit different for my channel. I'm going to do a craft with me, but I have had a number of people recently ask me to do a tutorial on how to do a mini album like the ones I did in August and September. So I've decided to take these gorgeous images from Jovi's Etsy shop and create a smaller version. If you want to craft along with me, I'm going to show you the paper collection. I'm going to show you some of the tools that I'll be using. And I will have down in the description box below, I'm going to try to put all the measurements for what I'm doing. We will not be creating the entire album today. What we will do is the base album itself and maybe talk a little bit about some of the special features that we will work on. So anyway, with that out of the way, let me just remind everybody that my design team videos for Creating with Jovi are giveaway videos, and I will be giving away the final project that I create using this paper collection. I would encourage everybody to watch all of the videos throughout the month because you never know which one I'm going to use to select the winner. So there probably will be 2, maybe 3 videos that I can choose from. We'll see how this plays out. Like I said, this is different for me. I have not done this on my channel before, so it's going to be a little interesting experience for you and for me. So anyway, with that out of the way, I am going to quickly just show you the images that are in the collection. Like I said, this is Old Time Christmas. You do, I believe, get 19 pages, and I'm not going to narrate them. I'm just going to show the images to you. I did cut these down. I believe I printed and cut these down at 6.5 by 4.5. And the book we're going to create today is going to be a 5 by 7 mini album. So yeah, if you want a detailed review of this paper collection, I will also have that video linked down below. So those are the main images, and then there are a number of pages of cut-aparts. Lots and lots of cut-aparts in this collection. Really, really pretty. And in my initial video where I showed this paper collection, I did show 2 different printouts from the printers I have in my house, and the consensus was most people like the darker images better, so that's what we're going to be working with. But like I said, we're not actually going to work with these today. That's going to be in an upcoming video. Today we are just going to create the base album. So I'm going to put those aside, and I'm just going to tell you quickly, I'm going to use some wet glue. This happens to be art glitter glue, and I just have it in a sample bottle, and I put this paper on here because the bottle got all yucky. Okay, now the paper's getting yucky. I'm going to use some double-sided tape, and this happens to be the Sook Wayne tape, but you can use any tape you want. We're going to use a bone folder. I need a pencil. I'm going to use my Cricut weeding tool. I have a pair of scissors. I have a, this is Dollar Tree scoring tool. We'll probably use a ruler. I also have my cutting board and my scoreboard. So I'm going to put those aside. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to bring in my guillotine, my paper cutter, okay? And it's actually, let me adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, I hope that's going to be okay. I don't want it to be too small or too big. So anyway, like I said, the book we're going to work on is going to end up being a 5 by 7, and it's going to have a 2-inch spine. I'm either going to do 3 or 4 signatures on the inside, and I will give you measurements for all of that stuff in the description box down below. So we're going to start out with some chipboard, and we're going to cut 2 pieces of chipboard at 5 by 7. Okay, so let me just get those cut real quick. Sorry, this chipboard is really, really thick, so that's 7 by 5. And I'm just going to warn you now, this will probably be a lengthy video since I'm doing all this instruction. And like I said, we're going to do a 2-inch spine. Now this is a little bit bigger than 2 inches, so I'm just going to trim it down a tiny bit. Okay, and I need this to be 5 inches long. Okay. And I'm going to put those aside. Now the next thing we need, and we're going to be using 110-pound cardstock in this project as well as 65-pound cardstock. To do the cover, we're going to use 65-pound, and I'm going to be doing my book. The base book is going to be black, and we're going to do matting with red, but the red is going to come later. That'll probably be in my next video. And we're going to use the 65-pound cardstock to cover up the chipboard we just cut. So let me put this aside. And you can use here either wet glue or your score tape. And I'm just going to use my score tape just because that's faster. And we're going to stick these 2 pieces of 65-pound black cardstock together. Okay. Now normally I use glue here, but this time around I'm going to use the tape just because it dries a lot faster. And like I said, this is probably going to be a long video. So, okay. Just score that down. And I'm going to use my weeding tool to pick off the adhesive backing. Okay. And we're going to glue these or stick these 2 pieces together. All right. Very good. All right. Now, I'm going to bring my chipboard in. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue the chipboard, and I'm going to use wet glue for this. We're going to glue the chipboard to the 65-pound cardstock. Now, it doesn't matter where you put this on the cardstock, but I'm going to put it close to the bottom because I know that I want to end up with about a 1-inch margin of paper all the way around. So just to save myself a little bit of cutting, I'm going to glue close to the bottom, and then I will trim off the top here. So let me get my glue out. Okay. And if you guys have any questions about anything, well, actually, you know what? I probably should have done the centerpiece first. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments down below, and I will make sure that I get an answer to you. And it's okay if some glue spills around. This is going to be covered up anyway. Let me just push that down. And when we put these pieces on, we're going to want to have about a 1/8 inch gap in between the pieces, okay? Now let me show you an easy way to figure out 1/8, okay? The heavy chipboard that I'm using is actually 1/8. So if I put the chipboard in between, that should give me my 1/8 inch, okay? All right. Now I'm going to glue the other one down. Now I'm just going to warn you, I'm going to give you measurements as we go, and I'm going to try to put them in the description box down below. I hope that I don't mess up and give you wrong measurements. If I do, I will try to post them actually on the screen for the video, because sometimes I misspeak what I'm saying, or sometimes I write things down wrong. Okay, so that's going to set and dry. In the meantime, I'm going to trim off the extra cardstock. And this doesn't have to be exact, but you want about 1 inch cardstock all the way around. Okay. And also, it doesn't matter if you don't do a straight line, it's going to get covered up. Okay. And I'm going to save these because I do use my scraps. And what we're going to do here is we're going to trim off the corners. Now, when we trim these corners, we're going to cut off and leave between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch of paper sticking out beyond the chipboard. And I'll show you why in a minute. Let me just glue that a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to go all the way around and trim off the corners, leaving that little bit of a gap there. Okay. All right, so that's that. Let me just close up my glue so it doesn't get all dried out. Okay. And I'm going to bring my score tape back in. Now you can use wet glue here if you want. And I normally would use 1/4 of an inch of the double-sided tape to do this, but unfortunately I'm out of 1/4 inch right now. So I'm using 1/2 inch, and I do have some of this on order, but it hasn't arrived yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line all the edges off with the score tape. And like I said, you can use wet glue if you want. Okay, and we're going to go all the way around with that tape or the glue. And making the base of the album is really pretty easy. And we also are going to create our signature pages with some elements to them. Now, we're not going to do all the elements because I may have some special ones I want to do that have to be done after some of the decorating takes place. Okay, so now I'm going to just press down this tape because I want to make sure it sticks really well. Okay, I'm using my bone folder. You can use a scraper or whatever you have on hand. Okay, and I'm going to use my Cricut weeding tool just to pick the backing piece off. Okay, now I'm sure all of you know this, but I'm just going to tell you for those of you that don't know, cardstock can crack or tear very easily if you're not careful with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to massage this edging piece instead of just folding it outright because I don't want the cardstock to crack. I'm just going to fold it until some of the fibers get broken, and then I can push that down. Okay, I'm using my bone folder to get it down really good. And you're going to want to, by the way, do these pieces last. And I will show you why in a minute. Okay, so take that off. I'm just going to massage that cardstock and break up the fibers. And then I'm going to push it down. Okay, now we're going to do these side pieces. And the reason why we're going to do these last is because remember when we clipped off the corners, we left that 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch paper sticking out? I'm going to give you a close-up there. So you can see that it extends beyond the cardstock. See that right there? We are going to take our bone folder and we're going to push down on that little piece of paper that's sticking right there, right up against the chipboard, okay? And what that's going to do is it is going to give us a nice fold when we fold this over, and it's going to give us a very nice crisp corner. Okay, so let me just massage that a little bit. Take off the backing. And let me show you the corner. See that nice corner? Okay, if you cut it too close to that chipboard when you're cutting those corners off, the chipboard's going to stick out, okay, and that's not going to be very pretty. So that is why we do that. So I'm going to push down those little pieces right up against the chipboard. I'm going to massage this down a little. Give it a good press. Take off the backing and stick that down. Okay, so that's good. Now, we don't want to just bend this. If we just bend this into the book form, the cardstock is going to crack. Okay, so what we need to do is take our bone folder and we're going to put it inside the little gap here, and we're going to gently score the cardstock in the gap. Okay, and once again, that's breaking up the fibers and making it so we will be able to bend our book closed. All right, and you don't want to push too hard. Push too hard, you can tear your cardstock, okay? And believe me, I know from experience, okay? Speaking of experience, I do want to mention that I am not an expert on making mini albums. I just know enough to be dangerous, okay? So I have scored that down, and I'm going to gently start bending this along the score marks until I get my book, okay? So there you have it. There is the base of our book, okay? And what we're going to do next is we're going to cover this part up with some more of that 65-pound cardstock. So let me get some out. Okay, this is 5 by 7. So I'm going to cut these. Well, okay, so let me just mention this before I start cutting. So usually you would want, just like when you're making a card and you're doing layers, you want to come in 1/8 of an inch so you have a little border going all the way around. You're kind of going to do that here too. So what I'm going to do is, this is a 5 by 7 piece. I'm going to come in that little bit all the way around. So instead of 5 by 7, I'm going to do 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So I need 2 of those, one for here, one for here. And then I'm going to do a piece that extends over this part right here. Okay, and we want it to go beyond the score lines, and that's going to hold everything in place. So let me just cut those pieces real quick. Okay, 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. All right. Put that aside. All right, so those are going to go here and here. And I'm just going to show you real quick. I know it's going to be hard because this is black on black, but we're going to glue this down so it has 1/8 of an inch going all the way around on these 3 sides. And then we need a piece here. This is 2 inches, and we'll come out, I can come out 1/2 inch on each side or 1 inch on each side. So I'll say 4 inches by 4 3/4. So let me cut that piece. 4 inches by 4 3/4. Okay. Bring my book back in. And I'm going to glue these down. Okay. Once again, you can use tape if you want. I like to use glue because that gives me a little bit of wiggle room if I need it. And I'm going to put this on with about 1/8 of an inch going all the way around. Okay. Okay, it's not perfect, but it'll do. It's handmade, right? Okay. Okay. And then we're going to take our 4 by 4 3/4 and we're going to glue it right in the center there. And that's going to cover up the last of our chipboard. Okay. All right. Now, optimally, we would want to let this dry a little bit more, but I'm just going to go ahead and keep moving here. So remember the gap that we scored before we put these on and folded the edges over? Well, it's right here, and I am going to use my bone folder and score that gently. Be careful not to push too hard. You don't want to crack that cardstock, okay? We need that fold in there so we can be able to open and close our book. Okay. Now, if it's not dry all the way, sometimes you'll get a little bit of bubbling, which I am getting because I'm not waiting. It's called impatience. Okay, how about this side? And you're going to want to take your time in that folding process so that those fibers get broken. Okay. And there is our basic album there. Okay. All right. So we're going to put this aside and we're going to work on our signatures. Okay. So I've got a little note written here. Hopefully I've got my numbers down right. Okay, so I have my paper trimmer here. We are going to switch to 110-pound cardstock. We're going to cut 4 pieces in the measurements of 7 1/4 by 4 3/4. Now the 4 3/4 is going to be this going up and down, and the 7 1/4 is going to go this way. Now remember, this is a 7-inch album, okay? And our paper is 1/4 of an inch shy because remember we have that 1/8 inch going around. I hope that makes sense. Now in order to do our hinge, we need to add a 1/2 inch. So we've got the measurement of 6 3/4 and we're going to add the 1/2 inch, which gives us 7 1/4. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I'm actually going to cut 2 of these at the same time. Okay. And this is going to be, we'll do the 4 3/4. Actually, no, we'll do the 7 1/4. And we're going to cut this to, what did I say? 4 3/4. Okay. So that gives me 2 of my pages. So now I'm going to cut 2 more. And this is going to be 7 1/4. By 4 3/4. Okay, make sure you save your scraps. Going to need those. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my mini score buddy, and we're going to score these 4 pages at a 1/2 inch along the 7 1/4 inch side. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And then I am going to fold these over on the score line and give it a good press. And the last one. Okay. So we have our 4 base pages, which are going to turn into our 4 signatures. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to start building on our pages. Okay, so I'm going to take what will be page number 1. And by the way, we can put these pages, we can put them together however we want to. And I can say this is page 1 and page 2 or signature 1. But when we put them in the book, we can put them in whatever order we want to. So you can always change your mind. Okay, so for this one, I think I'm going to do a top flap and a bottom flap. And once again, I am using my 110-pound cardstock. And I want 2 of them are going to be 6.75 by 4 3/4. So I'm looking to see if I have some scraps. Okay, here's a nice scrap. So I said I need 2 at 6.75, and actually I'm probably going to have to cut a whole sheet anyway. Okay, so 6.5 by 4 3/4. Okay, and then we are going to score these along the 4 3/4 side. We're going to score a 1/2 inch. Okay, and we're going to do that for both pieces. And then we will, I'm always losing my tools. Okay, then we're going to fold over on the score lines, give them a nice press. Okay, we're going to bring our page in. And let me think, do I want this to be the front? Yeah, I guess this will be the front. And what we're going to do is we're going to glue one to the top and one to the bottom. And by the way, these are not as wide as the actual pages. I don't know, can you see that right there? I did that so that we have some room when we're turning our pages back and forth, that it doesn't get jammed up or stuck. So I'm going to use my wet glue. And I'm going to glue one on the top and one on the bottom, and I am centering this in between the edges and lining up the top edge. Well, in this case, I guess it's the bottom edge. And I'm just going to press that down to spread the glue out. Oops, boy, we made a mess there. But that's okay, because most of that's going to get covered up with paper anyway. All right, so that's one side. And maybe if I use a little less glue this time, huh? And I am going to glue this one on the opposite side. And once again, I'm going to make sure that I'm centering that and keeping the top lined up. Okay, that looks good. Press that down. Press that down. Okay, so this can be page 1 or page 2, and it's going to open up like that and like that. Okay, now on the back side, I think I'm just going to make a pocket on the back side. Yeah, I'm going to do a pocket on this side. So I want to cut a piece at 7.75. We'll go 2.5. And this needs to be 7 3/4. Okay, we're going to bring in the scoreboard. And we are going to score a 1/2 inch on 2 sides, on the short sides. And a 1/2 inch on one long side. Okay. All right. And we're going to use our scissors, and we're going to nip off these corners. And by the way, you're going to cut right up to where those 2 lines meet. Okay. Nip them both off. And then we will fold on the score lines and press it down. And we're going to add some glue. Okay, now I want to make sure that I'm putting this on the right side. Okay. And this should fit along the bottom from side to side. It should fit perfectly if I measured correctly. And you're just going to line that up and then give it a good press to get that glue spread out. Oops. And so we have a pocket on this side. Okay, and on this side we have the flip up and flip down. So this is signature 1. I'm going to put that aside. Okay, signature 2 is going to be what I'm going to call my sliding page. Okay, so I'm going to take in another page. And this measures from top to bottom 4 3/4, but we need to make a 1/2 inch fold on the top and the bottom. So we're going to measure this 5.75 by 1 inch. Okay, so let me grab another scrap piece here. This needs to be 1 inch. And by the way, we need 2 of these. There's 1. And here's 2, and this needs to be 5 3/4. Okay, we're going to bring the scoreboard in, and we are going to score a 1/2 inch on each side, okay, on the short sides. Okay. So far, nothing we've done has been difficult, right? Okay, so now I'm going to fold along those score lines, and I'm going to press those down. Okay. And by the way, in case you guys are wondering if I'm folding one way over another, I actually am. When you score paper, you see where you scored at is going to have an indentation. The opposite side is going to have a bump. I find that the paper folds better if you fold into the bump. Okay, so here's the indentation side, here's the bump side. You fold it this way and you have a really, really nice crisp fold. Okay, bringing in my page here. And we are going to glue these top to bottom. Okay, about 1 inch from each side. So let me get my glue. Okay, and I'm just going to line it up top to bottom, and you want this to be straight. Hold that down for a couple of seconds. Make sure that it's not glued anywhere other than the top and the bottom. Okay, so basically you're making belly bands, and we're going to do 2 of these. Okay. And I'm going to put this on about 1 inch in from the edge, making sure the top and the bottom line up and that it's straight. Okay. All right. I hope all of this is making sense to you guys. Okay. Like I said, I am no master mini album maker, but I can do enough to get by. Okay, so this is going to be like 2 belly bands, and I'm just sliding this in here because I'm worried that, okay, there, I think my pieces were glued down a little too much. Okay, now they're good. All right, now we're going to do one more thing. We need 2 pieces cut at 1 inch by 2 3/4. Okay, 1 inch. And I need 2 3/4. There's 1. And there's 2. I'll bring back my scoreboard. And this time we are going to score. I can find my scoring tool again. We're going to score at 1 inch and 2 1/8. 1 inch and 2 1/8, and then we're going to fold on the score lines. And like I said, I'm folding towards the bumps. Okay, and then we're going to glue these closed. So I'm just going to add a little glue here, close that up. And I want to make sure this isn't glued closed. I want to make sure that I can slide something in and out of there. Oh, shoot. Okay, crafty peeps, I made a mistake. Okay, I glued these down already, and I should have actually not glued them down yet. Not until I adhered these two pieces. So I'm going to do the cheater way here and slide that on. Add some glue. Yeah, that was my boo-boo. And just close that up. Okay. Because this needs to be able to slide up and down. Okay. So basically I should have at least left one of these sides open so I could slide this on before I glued the belly band portion down. Okay, but I didn't. I was a dummy, so it's okay. It all works out. So this one's going to have to be done the same crazy way, but that's okay. All right. Make sure I didn't glue that to the belly bands. Okay, so these things should slide up and down. Now this page is going to have more work done to it, but we have to do it in a different stage. So I'm going to put that one, flip it over, and we're going to work on this side. Okay, so on the back side of the slider page, we're just going to do a side pocket right here, okay? Let's see. Yeah, right here. So that needs to be 5 3/4 by 3 1/4. So let me grab a scrap piece here. 3 1/4 by 5 3/4. And we are going to score along the 5 3/4. We're going to score at a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch along the 3 1/4 inch side. And since this is a pocket, we are going to trim off the corners, if I can find my scissors. Okay. Once again, you're going to want to cut that close to where those two score lines meet. And then you're going to massage your cardstock and press it down. Okay. So here's our slider page. On this side, we're going to put a pocket right here. Okay, so I need my glue. Okay, and I'm going to line it up for the top, the bottom, and one side. Okay. And just press that down. Okay. And let's just make sure nothing's glued. That's not supposed to be glued. Okay. So here's our slider page. This is signature number 2. And this side has a pocket over here. Okay. So I'm going to put that aside. So now we have 2 of our signatures complete. And I'm going to bring in another page. Okay. I think this is going to be my twin pages. So we're going to cut 2 pieces at 4 3/4 by 7 1/8. Okay. So let me write that down. Okay. I had my number written down wrong. Okay, and then we are going to score these at a 1/2 inch around along the 7 1/4. And we are going to fold along the score line on both pieces. We're going to bring our page back in. And we are going to glue the pages on side to side, okay? So let me grab my glue. Okay, and you want to line this up on one side and the top and the bottom. Okay. Okay, now the reason why we didn't do 7 1/4 is, I want to point this out. You see here, oops, a little bit crookedy. You see here, there's a little bit of an edge that's not covered. Okay, that's on purpose because we want to be able to open and close this easily. Okay, so that one's going to go there and this one's going to go here. Okay, so this will get glued on the opposite side, even with the top and the bottom, and the edge. Okay, press that down, press that down, and there's our twin page. Okay. All right, so now we're going to work on the back side of the twin pages, and we're going to create a belly band, and I'm just going to use this piece here. This piece is, it looks like 1 7/8. It doesn't really matter. Well, actually, it looks a little crooked, so let me get that on there nice and even. Okay, and we need this piece to be 5 3/4. Okay, so we're going to take that piece and we are going to score a 1/2 inch on each end to create our belly band. We will fold them over and press, fold it over and press. And this is the front side with the twin pages, so this is going to go in the center right there. Okay. And I am really sorry if this video seems a little crazy. I don't usually create my mini albums with an audience. A lot of times I just wing it and do what I feel like doing at the time. And now I had to actually plan this, and I don't think my planning went very well. I got a few of my measurements off. I glued out of order with a few things, but you get the idea, right? Okay, so we have our belly band here, and this is signature number 3. Signature number 4 is going to be a gatefold page. Okay, so this measures 6 3/4, and so we need to split that in half. Now, half of 6 3/4 is a little less than 3 7/8. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces at 3 7/8, and if I need to, I will trim them down. Okay, so let's see. This is almost 3 7/8. Imagine that. Actually, it is 3 7/8. So I need 2 pieces at 3 7/8 by 4 3/4. So there's one. And can I luck out and get another one? All right, 4 3/4 by, what did I say? 3 7/8. Okay, that one. Wow, I don't know how I managed that. Okay, and then we're going to score along the 3, actually that measures 3 3/4. Well, we'll trim them down if we need to. I'm going to score a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch. And we're going to fold along the score lines. Okay. We'll bring our page in, and we're going to glue one to one side and one to the other side. Okay, let me just see. Like I said, I may have to trim a tiny bit. Actually, I don't think I have to trim any off. Okay, that's good. Just add my glue. I'm going to put one on the end here. Okay. And okay, and then this one needs to be glued on. I'm actually going to line those up there and press that down. Now, it really should come to the right to the edge here, and it doesn't, but you know what? I'm okay with that. It's going to give me a little extra room for opening and closing the pages, and so that is fine. Okay. Now, we're going to need a little band to go across the front here as a gate close, but we'll be doing that later on when we do the decorating because that piece has to go on after the design paper goes on. Okay, so now what do I want to do on the back side here? Okay, I think we'll do a waterfall. We'll do a waterfall on the back. Okay, so I'm going to cut 5 pieces at 4.5 by 4.5. So let's see what I have here. Okay, that's almost 4.5, so that's good. Let me just trim that down a tiny bit. And this needs to be 4.5. And let's see, are these 4.5? Nope, those are 4. Looking for scraps here, people. Looking for scraps. Okay. 4.5 by 4.5. Oh, that came out to 4.25. Four and a half. Okay. So we have 5 pieces at 4.5 by 4.5. We are going to score on one edge at the 1/2 inch. And then we will fold and score them. Okay. Now, I'm not sure what we're going to do on the inside, back, and front cover, so we're going to deal with that later. So let me just push this aside. So we're pretty much done with that for now. I am going to bring my page in here. Okay, so this is my gatefold. And I think I want to build my waterfall so that it opens to the outside. Okay, so I'm going to take my flap here and add my glue. And these are 4.5 across, and this I believe is 4 3/4 maybe. So we're just going to center this right top to bottom and right at the edge. Okay. All right, so that's the first one. Okay, and this is going to line up right underneath the previous fold. Okay. All right. Make sure you push those down well so that glue spreads out and has a chance to start drying. Okay. Okay. And the last one here. Okay. All right, hopefully those line up. They look pretty good to me. Just giving them one more press. Okay, so there's our waterfall. And I'm going to bring our other pages in. So let's go over them. And I've been standing this whole time, so I'm going to sit for a minute, okay? All right, so like I said, you can put these inside your album any order you want to, but I'm just going to do them in the order that we created them. So this is our top fold, bottom fold page. So that's page 1. Flip it over. Page 2 has a pocket. Okay. Page 3 is our slider page. And like I said, this will get finished when we do our design paper. But those need to slide up and down. Page 4 is also a pocket. Okay. Page 5 is our twin pages. So you have lots and lots of room there. Page 6 is our belly band page. Page 7 is the gatefold, and the gatefold will get finished up when we add our design paper. And page 8 is our waterfall. Okay. Now, all that aside, we can add these in here, okay? We're going to add them in, and then the next, and that'll be it for this video. And then the next video, we will start matting and adding our decorative paper and adding a few other elements that will fancy up our book a little bit, okay? So, how you're going to put these in, and let me see, do I want to keep this order? Let me just think. Okay, so this would open up and down. We have our slider page, then we've got this big page here. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. We'll put them in the order I created them. So I'm going to start from the back, adding my pages in. So I'm going to take that hinge piece there. I'm going to add my glue. Okay. And we're going to add these in right next to that score line on the back of the book. Okay. So I'm just going to line this up so it's centered top to bottom. I'm going to hold that in place. Give it a little press. I've got a little glue leaking out here. Now, kind of don't want the glue showing here because some of these areas that we're doing now may not get covered with design paper. Okay, so that is the first page. Okay, so you see how that opens and closes like that. And by the way, we're going to be adding some magnets to this in a future video as well. So that will hold some of these pages closed. All right, here is the next hinge. Add my glue. And this one is going to butt right up against the page we already added in. So I'm just going to line that up there and press it in place. So by doing it like this, we have a 1/2 inch in between each signature, okay? Because these hinges are a 1/2 inch each. I'm just going to press that down well, make sure that sticks. Okay. Okay. Now, the next page. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to come in and line it up right up against the previous page. Centered top to bottom. Okay. I'm going to press that in. Okay. And the last one, which is actually our pages 1 and 2. Okay. And we will line that up. Okay. Press it down. And it should fall short of that score line at the very front of the book. Okay. Of course, knowing me, it probably isn't, but that's what should happen. Okay. All right. So, here's our book. Front. We open it up. We will do something with this inside cover in another video. We have our top and bottom flips. We can add pockets here, tuck spots. We can just do photo matting, whatever you want to do. And this will get a magnet on it to hold it closed. This one here has a nice big pocket. Here we have our slider page. So what will happen is a page will get adhered on here and it'll be able to slide up and down and it will show us a hidden picture down below. Okay. Here's another pocket on the side. Here are our twin pages. This will also get a magnet. Here's our belly band. And then we have our gatefold. This will get a magnet and a little tab across to hold it closed. And the last page is a waterfall. And actually, we may add a tab here to hold the waterfall closed with a magnet. I don't know. We'll see about that in the future. And then we'll figure out what we're going to do at the back later. So that's it. I know this has been a long video. I'm really sorry about that. Like I said, I'm not a master mini album creator. I know enough to be dangerous. And I know this seemed like it took a long time, but really, if I wasn't having to go through all the explanations with everyone, it would have gone much faster. So I think if you follow back through this video and you do it on your own, you will probably be able to figure everything out. If you don't, leave me a message down below. I'll be happy to respond and help you the best I can. And remember when I was talking about not cracking the cardstock? So here I am looking, I have cracked the cardstock. See it right there? So that really bums me out. Okay. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to do anything with that, but it is what it is at this point. So that's what I've got for you today. I hope that you were able to follow along. If you decide to create this project, be sure to let me know. Post your projects on my community tab and make sure that you tag me so that I can see them. And I will catch you in the next video where we start to add the matting layers, the extra elements, and the decorative paper. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you on the next crafty video. See you later, crafty peeps. Bye.